Hi, everyone, and welcome to the One Podcast. I have a friend on today that I have been waiting to share with you. When I first came across her, probably maybe 3 years ago, the thing that drew me to her the most is she has a very magnetic, especially if you guys are listening, I highly recommend going and watching her YouTube because there is a feminine energetics I have not seen in anyone else I know. She's very present in her body. She communicates with her body. She leads with the language of the energy of both her mind, her spirit, and her body. She is highly magnetic, very into the flow of energy, how it moves through you, making sure it's not stagnant, but she also knows how to transform your energy into growing your business, growing your presence, making sure that your message and the things that you are trying to share with the world, your mission and your movement, that it is really truly grounded in who you are. The way she speaks is highly intelligent and eloquent, but also with a way of conveying it with energy. There are so many things that I adore about her, and I would invite you, as you're listening or as you're watching, to just take a quick breath and get out of your mind and more in touch with your soul and your body, because as she speaks with a frequency. And so her intelligence will talk to your mind, but her energetics will speak to your soul. I really want you to hear her speak to you. I want you to feel her speak to you. And I would actually invite you to listen to this twice so you can feel her presence. And I think you will really enjoy it. So this is a very good friend of mine that I just adore named Nikki Ananda. And so first, Nikki, tell us a little bit about yourself, the story of how you built your business, and then we'll go into how you work with people, what your gifts are, all the fun stuff I want you to share.
Well, first, that introduction just like called me to presence. So thank you so much for all of that.
I love
Oh,
you.
I love you so much. Okay. Yeah. So my name is Nikki Ananda. And where I am right now in terms of what I've built and what I've established is under my brand, under this name that came to me last year, just as I was driving in the car, and all of a sudden it was like EroSophia. And for me, this is the quintessence. It's the full totality of everything that has sculpted and weaved and shaped me into what I have created. It is the channel that has moved through me, and into, penetrated all of my clients, is this essence of both Eros and Sophia. There's also something really beautiful about this. So I know a lot of the people listening are going to be familiar with human design. So my human design, I'm a 5-1 manifester. So the one line in me is that intellect. Like I love the words and the language and the eloquence and the knowledge and the logos and all of these things that are very masculine and structured and systematic. But it's the 5 line, the leadership line of being embodied in what it is that's the actual magic. So a big part of my journey has been getting that one line behind the 5 line in order to actually lead in embodiment.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like that entire process is what EroSophia is, in the sense that Eros is life force energy. Like Eros, when we think of who Eros was in Greek mythology, Eros was the god of sensual and passionate love. And it's the driving force to life. It's what makes us enlivened. It brings us into our embodiment. It brings us into the heart space. And the ways that we have been, what I think is very intentional and insidious, corrupted in terms of sexual energy, is even the word erotic has been turned into pornographic, has been cheapened into this way that the erotic doesn't feel sacred anymore. And the word Eros and understanding the god, and I could go into a whole kind of tangent about what the gods are and these archetypal energies that exist within our subconscious and the collective unconscious. But ultimately, in understanding this essence, the purity of Eros as its own energy, and then erotic innocence as this reclamational journey, brought in a new breath of life that reconnected me to what it is to have a human body, to exist as an organelle on the organism that is Earth, as one piece to the whole, But it really is, Eros itself is that life force. I see it as like all of these lines moving through the body. And when we follow Eros, when we follow our turn on, and when we stay deeply present with our sensuality, we're only driven into more vitality, more radiance, which is also different from hedonism and being pleasure driven to our death, to our grave. So there's ways that we get to work with these energies to find, to resurrect that erotic innocence, which is the first part of EroSophia. And then the Sophia is the divine feminine wisdom. It's the feminine God. And with the Gnostic Christians text, and even Sophia was in like our Bible, it's written there once now because men in power wanted to do everything they could to extract the feminine out, to disconnect us from feminine intelligence, feminine wisdom. Sophia is the Greek goddess of wisdom. But in Gnostic texts and even in our Bible, she is what created this world that we live in. And having this giant orgasmic lovemaking session with God with no name, so something beyond human comprehension, this essence, this feminine piece, Sophia, this wisdom piece, birthed this whole reality that we know. So Sophia is the inherent feminine wisdom that awakens through us. It's not logos, it's not knowledge, it's just the deep knowing. And only when we're actually connected to our alignment, to the divine, can we awaken the Sophia essence. So to me, the EroSophia path is awakening into our divinity through Eros. And everything is born from there.
Oh, no, I love it. I've never understood it as clearly as where you just said that because I've watched you. You embodied that long before you had words for it and long before you owned the brand, before you made this creation. And yet now you defined Eros and Sophia in at least 5 or 6 different sentences. I'm writing them down because I'm like, oh, that resonates. Oh, this makes sense. One thing that has always drawn me to you is the way that you live in sensuality. You live in the embodiment of your body without, it appears, without any shame. There's such a difference between sensuality and sexuality. And I think you are the living embodiment of sensuality. And yet, if we haven't understood sensuality, we look at you and think sexuality. As I'm saying that, you were the living embodiment for me to understand the difference. And I wouldn't have had those words until right now. But talk a little bit about that.
One of my favorite posts that I wrote back in 2017, when I started my mission, when I left corporate to come into this work, I wrote this post and really broke down the difference between sensuality and sexuality. And I repost it every year because it's that foundational to everything that I've built. And looking at this, what sensuality is essential for us to be in our power as feminine beings. So when we look at these archetypal energies, whether we call them masculine or feminine, it doesn't really matter, but there's these archetypal or primordial forces. And at any point, one has to be receptive and one has to be penetrative in order for us to create life. And we see this as basic as sperm and egg. These geometries exist everywhere in life. Everything that we want to know about creation exists within understanding sex and sexuality. So to be sensual is to be receptive through our senses, receiving information from our environment, from God, from source, from creator in the present moment. So our sensuality is our capacity to stay open, soft, and receive the information that is here for us now. Because, and I'm going to go big, but every dimension, every timeline, past, present, future, everything exists just right now. All we have is right now. And what blocks us from feeling the aliveness, the eros of what's here now is CPTSD, PTSD, attachments to the past, attachments to the future, depression, anxiety, all of these things that take us out of our power. And one of the core things in like the EroSophia dictionary, the way that I define power is sensual embodiment, presence is our sensual embodiment, presence, our ability to respond instead of react, responsibility, and our capacity to hold pressure. This is what power actually is. So power can only exist here in this moment. And in this moment, if we're fully alive, not drawing on ways that we've armored ourselves or braced ourselves because of trauma in the past, but we're actually soft in our feminine essence and able to receive, there's sight beyond the sight, beyond the sight, beyond the sight. There's sound beyond the sound, beyond the sound, beyond the sound. There's smell beyond the smell, beyond the smell. It takes us multidimensional. We're able to actually transcend the three-dimensional space by sinking deeper into our sensual embodiment. I have a lot of stories of how I got on a sacred sexuality path that have to do with insane awakenings that I didn't know were possible through sexual energy alone. But what I learned was this energy of sensual embodiment, sensual presence is the direct path to God for the feminine, for women. But the other part of this is our relationship with sex and sexuality has been so distorted. We live in a very insane culture where sex has been both shamed on one hand and exploited on the other, that our mental capacity to figure out, is this good, bad, right, or wrong? Am I allowed? Am I not allowed? All of this stuff that has made us completely dissociated from sexuality. The remedy for all of that is sensual embodiment first. So sensuality is the precursor for sexual energy or sexuality to thrive. But we don't need sexuality for sensuality to thrive. And that's nuance, and there's a little bit of semantics in that, but that's languaging that really helps us understand sensuality versus sexuality.
One of the things that I think is really important for everyone is to slow down and be very aware. The words that you use matter. Like we were saying, sensuality and sexuality get so muddled. People don't really understand the difference between them. I am inviting everyone to re-listen to this over and over again, because if women can understand sensuality, it's going to make a difference in everything that you do. And in fact, as I'm saying it, I can feel my own interpretation of religious background growing up fighting against that, because I've intertwined sensuality with sexuality. I loved that you said sensuality is your direct connection to God. And if you don't like the word God, universe, source, whatever, direct connection, I think that's important. Hear that again. Sensuality is your direct connection to all of that, to your power, to your source, to all of that. I love how you redefined power. I would love for people to go back, because I think power is a misunderstood word too. I wanted you to explain the difference between sensuality and sacred sexuality. I think people would hear those two and think they're the same, and they're not. And then you had started to say sensuality is the precursor to sacred sexuality. Talk about that.
Yeah, we can look at this at a biological level. And again, all the secrets of the universe are in sex. It's all because sex is creating life. And we're here at the breath of a new moment, the expansion of the universe. Every second is the universe expanding within itself. So we're giving birth to life every second. There's no avoiding this, whether we're conscious of it or not. And when we look at it in terms of even matter, when we say like this matters, matter itself is the physical atoms in space and time, but matter means mother in Latin, and it connects to matrix as well. So there's even this feminine principle in what it is to be physically embodied that's inherently feminine, inherently with capacity to conceive life and to birth life. It's all here all of the time. So when we look at biologically, again, it's all symbolic. This is also really important. So our subconscious speaks in symbolisms. It speaks in archetypes and symbolism, and that's more real. Our subconscious is 99% or 90% of reality, and what we're conscious of is only 10%. So we're here trying to be conscious beings speaking English language, which is a symbolic language. It's not a tonal language like Hebrew or Sanskrit or Kemetic. It's a language that our brain puts together these symbols and puzzles and tries to interpret something on such a superficial level. But our full conscious self, and if we look at the Jungian definition of self, capital S, it's not who we be in this body right now. It's who we be in the entirety of the moment that surrounds us. So all of the sacred theater, all of the dance, all the interactions, all of the relationships, not just now, but throughout time as we perceive it now. Mm-hmm. So our subconscious, our true self, our highest self speaks in the symbolic understanding of interpreting the relationships and the things that surround us and owning our power, which is our sensual embodiment, our presence, our responsibility, ability to respond, and our capacity to hold the pressure that everything that is around us is our creation. When we can understand and hold all of that here in the moment and not have armor, but actually be soft to receive even more information and breath through the senses, then we're alive to our fullest capacity, and things start to open up in what I call the diamond mind or field of creativity. And we start to see things from a different level that we can't get through the labyrinth of the mind, but our heart has to actually be open to receive it. So when we look biologically, symbolically at what happens with the feminine body and arousal and turn on, it takes 20 to 40 minutes for a woman to actually be turned on, for her body to be ready for any kind of penetration. And that turn on is stimulated by the softening, by the allowing of sitting back, feeling safe, feeling connected to body, feeling connected to something greater, being held by the masculine. It doesn't matter what gender your partner is, but being held by some kind of structure and container allows us to sink back into the energetic experience where things get a little bit more ethereal. And as we breathe more life, that Eros comes in, and that Eros brings life into the body, into the yoni, and it actually turns on and gets waters flowing, juices going, and all of these things that enliven our colors, our sense of colors get brighter. We hear things differently, like our whole experience of life and vitality and radiance levels up. So it takes some time, and it takes practice and devotional practice. So I have a membership, the EroSophia membership, and the cornerstone of that membership is a pleasure practice. And every month, women are going in to activate in sensuality to get in the space of receivership, because I don't believe there's any other way to do this except for coming deeper into the body. And we may have these sexual awakenings or spiritual awakenings. We may touch God here and there, all of this, but it's not the same as having a practice, a devotional practice, because some days is going to be really hard to show up to the body, like really challenging. And one of the things that I emphasize in this practice is, even if you have a day showing up to your body and all you feel is numbness, but you are with your body in the numbness and you're feeling the numbness and you're just allowing that to be expressed, allowing yourself to sit with that for the whole hour-long session. I have had the most dissociated sessions that have led to the next day being the biggest expansions in my energy, because it wasn't what I thought numbness was. It was the fact that I sat with myself and this part of myself that had been disconnected within myself, that needed to be seen by myself, that actually created the breakthrough.
Oh.
So it's through the sensuality and the thawing and the de-armoring that we've come back closer and closer to our harmonic connection as the bridge, the oracle between God, creator, spirit, and earth, matter, mother, that's here in the three-dimensional world.
Wow. Okay. There are so many things that I feel like are really important. And for the people that some of this language is not going to be familiar. No. And you know what's funny is, as I said that, that's not true. It's going to feel unfamiliar because we're not used to using that language. However, your soul is going to recognize it. Your body is going to feel it because it is truth. And so even if the words, the actual words don't sound familiar to you, your body is picking up on, she's speaking truth. This is something you really need to hear. Let's start with, I'm trying to come from a listener or viewer mindset who's just coming across this. I truly feel, as you're speaking, that the whole point of this podcast is for women to really deeply reconnect with their sensuality. I feel so many of us out there do not know how to do that. So if I'm just starting to listen to this and there's a part of me feeling, okay, wait, this is truth. I'm a little scared. I'm a little intimidated. I don't even know where to start. Two things that I think are going to come up right away. We do not know why that's happening. Hilarious. Okay, for those of you on the podcast, balloons have been coming up through this and neither one of us have that setting. So this is funny for those of you on YouTube. You just saw it. We're going to have a little party. I think the universe is celebrating that this is what we're supposed to be talking about. So the two things that I feel like are important, and they might be intertwined, and I would love for you to address them. If you've been blocked on this, my assumption is, number one, you're going to say, I have trauma from my past, and so I don't even know where to start. Or number two is someone's going to say, I feel nothing, I feel numb. And you did say, numbness is a feeling, even if you can just sit in the numbness. How do I address these two things to even begin? So if you wouldn't mind talking on those two, we'll build from there.
Yeah. So we just make it so much more complicated. Can I swear? Do you swear on here?
Oh, you can say whatever you want. This is all about you. The
Yeah. All
truth of
right.
who you are.
We make it so much more fucking complicated than it actually is. I was laughing. I said to my mom yesterday, I was like, I know the women that I meant to work with because we all have creases between our brows because we're thinkers.
Oh, that's so true. Unless you get Botox, but it's
Unless
still
you get
there.
Botox. But it would be there if you didn't have the Botox.
Right.
I don't even get Botox anymore because my body would metabolize it in 3 weeks. So I was like, okay, so we're going to have to work on relaxing the brow, not thinking so much up here and coming deeper into the body, because that's all this is. The crease in the brow is actually a sign of control. And that's what this work is. It's getting out of the need to control from the realms of the mind to allow what actually is to be. So right away, there's an inherent conditioning that we have that's societal, insidious, and intentional. I believe it doesn't matter if you believe that or not, that no matter what, we're not enough or we're too much. So when we have this fundamentally at any moment of any time, I'm too much, I'm not enough, I'm too much, I'm not enough, we're not soft and present in the moment. But when we understand there's no such thing as not enough or too much, like that's not real. That's actually not real. So if that's not real, then what is real? What is true? What's true is I am. I am that I am. And it's as simple as whatever is in this moment is. And it's perfect and it's divine. So I say there's these two paradigms of the mind we have to get over in order to get to our power. And it's the villain, victim, savior paradigm. This whole thing of like, and we can put it into this context. I'm a victim to myself because I've mistreated my body. I'm a victim to somebody because I was sexually assaulted. I'm the villain because I sexually did this thing and I have so much shame around it, or I'm the villain because I punished myself. Whatever it is, we can get stuck in the villain, victim, savior, or I want to be saved by a person, a man or a woman or something like that. All of the ways that this villain, victim, savior paradigm takes us completely out of our power. So that's one area we have to be aware of the mind. The other one is the judgment hall, which is all of this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. And that judgment hall, when we ultimately, and people don't like that I say this, and there's truth in this, but I also want to create a course called Paradox where I talk about the other truth on the other side of this, that good, bad, right, wrong are all human constructs. God doesn't see it that way. Humans see it that way. Humans are the ones that are deciding, is this good, bad, right, or wrong? And when we start to put that label on things, and this is the whole story of the fall, Eve eats the apple and has the knowledge of God, and then everything crumbles in shame and all these things. It's because we think we have the right to judge what is good, bad, right, or wrong. Now, the nuance, the paradox to this is there's a difference between judging mentally good, bad, right, and wrong versus following intuition and understanding this expands me, this cultivates heart, or this causes harm. Because if we just label harm as harm without needing it to be bad, then we're in the truth of what it is. Violence is violence without labeling it bad. That doesn't mean it's not morally wrong, but we need to be calling things by what they are, not labeling them with a judgment on top of it in order for us to be in the power. So when we have something, internal pain or numbness, for us to be in our power is for us to be just with the sensation without judging it as good, bad, right, or wrong. And when we can have that spaciousness to just be the observer, I am that I am, then all the creative energy or God energy, life force energy starts to come in and things start to move because everything is moving. We're at the breath of newness in every single moment. So when we have that crease, when we're trying to control, it's we think we know how things should be. We think we know how things should go. And we're not actually being the receptive feminine force for the divine to move through to create magic and miracles and healing on the highest timeline beyond what our ego could ever possibly perceive. So we have to get beyond this in order for us to be aligned to possibilities, outcomes, the next thing that goes far beyond what is predictable for us to actually receive something on another timeline even.
I love this so much. I'm enjoying everything you're saying because as you're speaking, there's an actual physical feeling in my body and a mental picture of how beautifully everything you say weaves into all of my messages because I'm about intuition and recognizing I am the one, I am being present, using your words very intentionally, making sure that you are coming from that place of intuitive action, and yet you say it in such a frequency, such an energetic message. I would invite you, when you're done with this, make a mental note to think about, where have I been placing beliefs about being the villain? And she gave some examples about being the victim. Where have I been looking for a savior? And where have I actually tried to be the savior? I'm guilty of that. I've looked for that in the past. And then another message that I felt was really important, which a lot of us, I think, struggle with. And in fact, I would love for you to say your answer and your view on this, is the releasing of the judgment. And I think she gave perfect examples. We have to stop labeling good, bad, right, and wrong. If you can pull the labels off, if you're looking at your current life and at your past, what have I judged for myself and for others as that was good, that was bad, that was right, that was wrong? If we can see those specific examples or feel in our body where we've done that to ourselves or where we've done that to other people, and we can start lifting that and not have that judgment, that invites the freedom. If we start there, where have I been putting these labels and where have I assigned roles to myself? Because it's not just a label we've taken on. The more we tell the stories, we're living in the victimhood. The more we tell the stories, we are the villain. The more we tell the stories, we need the savior. And we are none of those, and yet we're all of those because we are everything. But we don't need those labels. You'll see intertwined in this whole message the presence of now. So for those of you that are driving or those of you that are sitting somewhere, if you just take one quick breath, it takes you right back to now. Just breathe it in. You don't need to do a whole bunch of breath work, but whenever you're wrapped up in something, if you just pause, take that deep breath in and let it out, it slows down enough to pull you right back, especially a nice slow one, and take it in as deep as you can. You're focused back on your body. You're pulling your mind away from all the distractions. And I feel like this was so perfectly timed, because if women can take this message here in the beginning of 2026 or whenever you happen to hear it and make these shifts. I talk about micro shifts. It doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to change everything tomorrow. But if you can decide, I am going to connect with now, I'm going to release these judgments and labels I put on myself. I'm also going to learn about my sensuality. I'm going to redefine my power. Any one of those are literally going to change the trajectory of how you live, and your gifts will have a much larger impact. So talk to me a little bit. I loved that you said the state of receivership. But if you feel something else come through that you want to talk about first, talk about that and we'll save this.
Well, I think the state of receivership is everything in terms of what we are doing. What I want to say on a bigger level is definitely, if you're listening to this, you're on a global mission to shift the paradigm that has been on Earth. And I don't see it as feminine is the future. I see it more so that we're coming into balance and harmony, and we have been way out of balance with the feminine. And now we're learning the way to create. That's not, oh, I am very tempted to bring out my graphics from my live I did earlier today. I will show for people who watch this, and I will describe the image for people who don't. So we are not meant to be men lifting blocks to build structures one by one block at a time. We are meant to be self-actualized, building from the top down, channeling our vision into matter while we allow the next steps and receivership to come into our field and take inspired action from there. And the inspired action, the receivership piece of this is the move that's going to call us is going to be one that really stretches our capacity of faith and heart and courage and trust. And unless we're actually deeply anchored into our body, it can't be a heady thing. Our intuition doesn't speak through the mind, it speaks through the body. These messages don't come in intellectually, they come in through a full felt sense. And unless every atom and every cell of your being is vibrating with this scares the shit out of me, but I know I'm supposed to go, then we're going to be wobbly when we take these leaps. But the path of creating what we're here to create, our personal success is just one tiny piece of the global movement. But in order to actually create that, we have to be making moves that have our whole body vibrating in resonance with the yes. And that doesn't happen because we intellectualize our way there. That happens because our body is open to receiving the message that this is where to go to create that timeline shift that's beyond the reality we've been existing in. And I can get really nerdy about this in the sense that this material world, matter, is the densest part of our reality. It's the slowest moving piece. So everything has to come through spirit, then mind, then emotion, then energy before it actually transforms in this physical reality. One of the examples I give is my desire for a six-figure business, because I was holier than money up until 2021. And then when I realized, oh, I have to actually play a conscious money game. That's another podcast. In 2021 was when I had the desire and got the hit for a six-figure business. And I embodied that frequency. And it still took a year and a half until I hit it. But I owned the energy and I moved from that energy until the physical reality sculpted around it. Now, in that time was also building the self-belief, the self-trust. It was expanding in receivership, energy, frequency, capacity, and very practical things like skill set. But it wasn't without it coming through the other levels first. And one of the stories I told today in my Facebook group was, if I decided 3 months in to me creating a six-figure year that it wasn't working and I bailed on it then, I wouldn't be on track for a seven-figure year. It wouldn't have worked out. It wouldn't have vibrated in my body strong enough to give me the momentum to keep going.
Yes.
So if we're not fully in our body, and I think this is really important, you're talking about the way I express myself and the sensual expression versus sexual expression. This was another kind of reclamation I did. I did this live talking about erotic artistry and my own journey of reclaiming myself in the public eye in Eros, in sensuality, because there was a time in 2020 where censorship skyrocketed and accounts were getting taken down because of sexual content, even though it was sexual empowerment and sexual healing. Sex therapists and trauma specialists were getting taken down from social media. When to me, it's absolutely absurd when these more erotic and we'll say kind of darker, sinister sexual energies were staying up.
Yeah.
It was a weird kind of thing. And in that moment, I froze and started questioning everything I brought online. I went very extensively on the reclamation of coming back into my Eros, because what it comes down to is I don't do it. We don't do it. Sensual embodiment is not performative. Performative can be sexual. Sexuality can be performative, but there's no way sensuality can be performative because it's inside out.
Yes.
And if sensuality is the precursor for sexuality, there's no way sexuality can't be sacred. So we can have sex without the sacred when we're dissociated from our sensual embodiment. But if we're connected to our senses and we're getting over the ego of what's good, bad, right, and wrong, and we're just authentic with where our desire is, and allow one desire leading to the next, leading to the next, leading to the next, leading to more presence, more receptivity, more connection to the divine, then every encounter we have that becomes sexual has to become sacred. It can't not be.
So really hear that. Focusing on sensuality, the word sensuality is truly every sense in your body. Really paying attention to your sight, your sense of taste, especially the sense of feeling, the emotions flowing through you, what you hear. And if you're disconnected with one part of your senses, focus on the others as you're starting to learn this full embodiment. The ones that you already do feel. Are you someone who really smells the food as it's cooking? Are you someone who feels, like when someone hugs you, do you deeply feel that sense of connection? Are you someone who hears music and just connects deeply with how that music comes in and affects your whole body? Find where you're already strong in your sensuality of your senses. And then as you can start to strengthen that and let go of some of this other stuff, really get more embodied. I love how you were saying that sexuality then can't be not
Yeah.
spiritual, not connected to more. I think there will be people that hear this that are completely, oh, I got sensuality down. Let's talk more about sexuality. I really want women to hear this. I would hope this would be your goal through this podcast. I want deeper sensuality and I want even better sexuality. If you can empower those two things inside yourself, your entire world is going to change, not just your relationships, your business, your friendships, how you carry yourself, everything. You're going to become wildly magnetic, so empowered, so confident. Everything about you will shift. Oh, there was one other thing that you had said earlier that I felt is important when you were saying right now and in every moment we're birthing life. And I think for some of us that didn't have kids, we associate birth with just children, and yet we are birthing the moment. We are birthing your new life. Everything you're breathing and thinking and talking about and doing in this moment right now as you're listening is creating the woman or man that you are going to be tomorrow, the day after, 9 months from now. We're consistently birthing the woman you will see, the man you will see, how you will show up, how you will behave, your business, your creations, your contribution to the world, your impact, your relationships. Everything is being birthed in this moment. So the deeper you can really truly release the things that are blocking you from that sensuality, and then let's venture more into the sexuality. And this doesn't just have to be with partners. Let's open up the doors to how we shift our beliefs on connection, sexuality, really being present with another human, really feeling inside ourselves.
So, what you were saying about the creation of every moment. So, I mentor women in feminine embodiment and feminine business. And it's the same thing. One path leads to another. So, my mission is liberation beyond the false matrix: mind, body, sex, money. In that sequence, intentionally, free your mind, liberate your body, liberate your sexuality, financial freedom. So, the sex piece of this is understanding that if the universe is speaking to us in symbolism. Now, I also want to give this distinction because a lot of people will interchange God and the universe or source, creator, and universe. And I think whether or not you believe in God or the word God triggers you, I would highly recommend finding another word to distinguish and separate universe from something greater. Because before there was matter, there was something. So whether that's creator, and then from creator birthed the universe and matter and ether and everything in between. But there's something behind the universe that I think is important that we reach for.
Source. I love the word source.
I love source.
Source, creator, God, something.
Whatever it is.
Whatever resonates, whatever works
Beyond
for
the
you.
matter.
Yes.
Beyond the
Bigger.
material universe. So when we can see that the universe itself is symbolic, and there's been very intentional reasons that we have been, as women, disconnected from our bodies. We have to remember too right now that we live in a time where science has become religion. Science has become doctrine. And a lot of us forget that just 100 years ago on the planet, everyone was connected to source. Not everyone, but most people, atheism wasn't really a thing. Spirituality was in the air. There was a connectedness, a harmonic resonance. Like there was always something bigger for majority of people on the planet. Atheism wasn't what it is now. Science wasn't what it is now. So there were many millennia where in the air you breathe, there were belief systems and there were just things understood that gave access to higher states of consciousness that we've forgotten about. So we're in a remembering process of things that have already been known on the planet, which is really important. And one of the things we're remembering as women is our oracular nature. And we had temples that existed in ancient history up until not too long ago, where women in their embodiment were vessels for the divine to speak forward. And there was this period of time, and we can trace it back to like the oracles of Delphi and the priests of Apollo. There was this time where essentially the masculine wanted to dominate over the feminine. And these temples got raided, and masculine spirituality and priesthood started to use physical force to assert over feminine oracular nature.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's collective, we know the witch wounds and we know things like this, but there's also deeper priestess wounds. I want to say trigger warning, but I don't believe in trigger warnings, but some of your audience might. So, trigger warning. The women in these spaces, there was this great divide where women were getting captured, and they were sacred sexuality was used in these temples to bring higher states of consciousness and healing to men, to women, to society. One of the ways this was used was when men were be coming home from war, they would stop at these temples, and through sexuality, through having sex with these priestesses or engaging in sexual energy, the war would be taken out of the man before he returned to his family. So sex was always used as an art, as a temple art, to heal and elevate and connect to the divine, and it was revered as something sacred. But in this time that the masculine started dominating over, I believe this is when STIs became a thing. And then sex was desecrated. The temple arts were desecrated, and prostitution became this dirtier thing because it was used for an effect instead of honored as something beyond control. So when we look at this in terms of manifestation, we have to be non-attached to the result in order for the bigger thing to come through. So when we're trying to use something or manipulate something to get a certain result, it puts it in a denser vibration. And the results become, so one of my mentors when I was 16 gave me these words, and I think it's really helpful just for concept, not for fear, not good, bad, right, or wrong, but for directionality. LIVE, to live, to move forward in a direction. EVIL, to take life force energy away. It's just that easy. Live versus evil. One generates life force and one takes away life force energy. It's just polarity, duality, directionality. So what was once this vital tool, sexuality, became this manipulative evil force. And that feeds a lot of the corruption we have now. Another thing, when the men started taking over and wanted the power that these women had, was they would literally drug the women with hallucinogenics to put them in altered states, to prophesize things for their empires, for whatever it was. So these women were being used in their gifts to serve an agenda that wasn't divine agenda, that was ego agenda.
Yeah.
So we have all these gifts, and for lots of reasons, we're afraid to be in them. We also, through the witch wound, we would be literally executed. We would be killed if we were shown in our light, in our priestessness, in our connection to the divine that wasn't allowed for women. The people that were in control needed to stay in control, needed to stay in their power. So there's a lot of reasons that we have forgotten this oracular nature, but it's inherent in who we be.
Yes.
So one of the ways that we start to de-armor all of this is understanding anatomy and biology. It's not just about dissociating and going all in the woo. It's about how is this symbolically represented in the womb, in the cervix, in the heart, in the breasts, in the throat, because it's all matter. It's all physically here. So when we start to do practices like womb massage, we're opening our creative power because we're literally putting our hands on the center that creates. And when we start to do breast massage, we're opening up the heart field. We're de-armoring the heart. Any kind of throat massage and vocal, I want to say like training, but like exercises on the throat helps us use our word as the word of God. Our word is the word of law, right? So it's understanding there's an anatomical counterpart to these spiritual virtues that we want to bring forward.
Yes.
And I think to summarize, instead of looking at things as good, bad, right, or wrong, it was really Epictetus who so he was a slave philosopher that informed Marcus Aurelius's works, but his whole thing was really getting into virtue or vice. And there's virtue, vice, and indifference. And when we can see everything, is this virtuous? Am I creating virtue through my embodiment? Am I creating virtue? Am I feeding virtue through my actions versus am I acting out of vice? And that would be the same as live in evil. But then there are things like sex on its own is indifferent. Money on its own is indifferent. It's just how we relate to these things that sculpt what it is that we're creating. So it is up to us to bring money and sexuality up to virtue, but it's not inherently virtuous and it's not inherently a vice. So that responsibility piece is just, how do we be? Who are we while we're doing what we're doing? And then everything else falls into place from there.
I love this so much. Right there at the end, when you were talking about virtue, virtue was a key word for me growing up. We're meant to be virtuous. I think some of us don't even think about that word anymore. Or in the religion I grew up in, if you were performing sexual things outside of marriage, you were losing your virtue. And it's so sad. We've never lost our virtue. Virtue is not something that can be taken from you. Neither is value, neither is worth. And what really came through for me as you're talking about the history is the power that we've always had as women is still there. I think power in itself is something that some women are afraid of or don't know how to harness it and use it. We're also not really certain if I start embodying all of who I am. I like to say that I'm unveiling who I already am that I've just forgotten about. I do think there's this beautiful mix between becoming and unveiling a better version of ourselves, but it's already been there. It's in there. It's waiting for you to recognize it and release it, embody it, and walk as it. One thing that I would love for you to address or talk about is for the people that are feeling, okay, yes, this is something that I want to start doing. Obviously, they need to come get in your membership, but how do they address that concern or fear that, okay, if I start to truly go into my sensuality, if I start knowing who I am, really feeling that power, how do I harness or how do I make sure I'm not, like we were saying, there's not too much, there's not too little. First of all, it doesn't exist. I always want you to ask yourself, okay, I'm too much for whom? Too much of what? And then too little of this for whom or of what? Because who are you comparing to? There's millions of people on the planet. So who gave you that measuring stick and why would it even exist? So there's not too much, there's not too little of anything about you. You're perfect as you are. But as you're rising in this, okay, I'm stepping into more of my sensuality, I'm releasing the armor. What are your thoughts on learning how to walk as that?
So there's so many ways to approach this. I think what's important is what you were saying, the distinguishing, or it's not even, there's no separation, the becoming and the unveiling. So there's an inherent trust of I was built for this, I was made for this, and this is the natural state. I'm programmed to be trauma informed, right? Like my background, my education background, all of these things, I spent a lot of years in study, especially as a somatic sex educator and sexological body worker, on being trauma informed. But part of what that did that held me back was had me over identified with trauma. And it only broke through when I stopped trying to figure out why the trauma was there and instead focused on what I wanted to feel and who I wanted to be and what I wanted to experience. So as soon as I stopped trying to get to the root of why the armor was there, why am I like this? Why am I have another graphic for this. When I stopped hunting for the why, and instead I just focused on what it was that I wanted to create. Here's my graphic. So this is a stick figure at a desk looking out a window into the galaxy. On the desk is a microscope, and on the microscope, he has infinite capacity to go into the cells and the atoms forever, 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 breaking down the why forever. It just can go on infinitely. There's always more to break down. Or he could take the telescope and look out into the universe, into the cosmos forever, 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 forever. And there's infinite things out there, as above, so below. And then there's just here, now, as within, so without. So when we're present in the moment, we have the capacity to, yes, go out and to find all of these stories and excuses and experiences to validate what we're feeling, or we can use that energy to just cultivate the discipline to train our nervous system and our body to feel the way we desire to feel. So we have to be non-attached to the story, and that's really hard. It is really hard when we've been identified because the story keeps us safe, especially when we've been a victim. The story is why we haven't been fully alive. So we don't have to be responsible for our vitality when we've identified with the trauma. But the only way that I've broken free was to see that I am not my story. I am so much bigger than that. And if I want to feel and experience life a certain way, I have to be the one to create it. Does
Yeah.
that mean all of the trauma responses went away in my body? No. It meant that I was focused on every time something came up, addressing it and facing it head on. And I think that was originally your question, like, how would you confront the things? You just face them. You're
Hmm.
responsible. So when it comes back to power, and my definition of power, it's presence. So we're not looking in the past and we're not looking in the future. We're present. We're able to respond. So trauma comes up in the body, that response comes up, or the reaction comes up in the body. Our power is in our ability to breathe, not identify with it, and consciously relax the nervous system. And then the next part is our capacity to hold pressure, because that work is pressureful.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
have to be able to hold the pressure that I am doing the work, and I'm committed to doing this work until whenever it breaks through. Whether it's a year from now or a week from now, an hour from now, it doesn't matter, because I'm on the path. I'm all in, doing whatever it takes, no matter how long it takes, because this is what I want. And this is what makes life worth living for. So it
Mhm.
really is that power, presence, ability to respond, and capacity to hold pressure.
Yeah. The two things I want to add to that are, as she was saying, the things that we've lived from the past. I love to say, I have experienced. Like she said, it isn't who I am, it are things I have experienced. And when you can separate, I lived, none of it is who you are. Everything we've lived is something I experienced. And I feel like if you can even just use that word, you're pulling away from the attachments of it. You're pulling away from the history and the feelings and the beliefs you've made about it. I experienced, I lived through something that happened to me, something that I went through. Those are not who you are. They are a lived experience. And then I also love how you were just talking about the power of being in the now.
But I want to say this because we're
Yes.
so important, because people, sexuality, the root chakra, the sacral, and the solar plexus. The
Mm-hmm.
shadow of the root is fear. The shadow of the sacral is shame. And the
Mm-hmm.
shadow of the solar plexus is guilt.
Yes.
So we want to move from shame, which is I am bad, I am the identity,
Yes.
to guilt, which is I
Yes.
experienced something that doesn't feel good, that's uncomfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
we want to, in the definition of power, hold things that don't feel good. Life is not about feeling good all of the time. It's about our capacity to hold the things that we don't want to face, that we don't want to feel, with ultimate trust that the bigger alchemy that's happening is bigger pressure, bigger diamonds. And
Yes.
that comfort, that cringe, all of that gnarliness, that's life. It's
Yep.
life. That's what
That
we're here
was,
to experience.
I'm so glad you came back to that because you were saying holding the pressure. It could be a minute, a month, a year. However, that's the beauty of the universe, like we've both said. It doesn't function on human time. So when we let these things come up, when we're holding the pressure, that pressure could go away in 5 minutes. We sometimes hold the belief that it's going to take us a long time to get over something, or this pain is going to last forever, or how long can I hold the pressure? I also would love to plant the idea that you start allowing your thought to think and your body to realize this doesn't have to stay very long. It literally could go away in a minute. It could last a week, it could last a month, it could last a year, but there's also a chance that my body and mind can let go of this in a minute. So, am I willing to hold the pressure? Am I willing to just open that up to, I can hold the pressure and there's a possibility I don't have to hold it very long, but I'm going to experience it. I'm going to let myself experience it. It's me experiencing something. It's not who I am. I really love that. And I know we are going to have to wind up somewhat soon, although I could talk to you for hours on end. One thing that I felt like we should also talk about is true divine femininity. I think people get confused with the feminine energy, thinking I have to wear flowy stuff. I talk about divine femininity and then living in the matrix. Those,
Mm,
how you define those two, and then we'll wrap up from there.
mm, mm. Well, because I'm a manifester and I have to just interject this one final piece too.
Do, yes.
So on top of the time piece, I want to emphasize that all of this is nonlinear. And actually, it all can tie together here, femininity and breaking beyond the false matrix and how it's nonlinear. Because we are not moving one step at a time. We are going portal to portal to portal to portal to portal. So with the example of, and these are always my strongest examples because I came here in this body to learn through sexuality and feminine embodiment and having this pleasure practice and having sessions, knowing, because if we were linear, if healing was linear, every session would get better and better and better and better and better. But that's not how this goes. The work is to confront ourselves in a million different faces of the goddess every time we show up to the mat. And I always lead telling people this and empowering women with this. Yes, it's great to have these orgasmic sessions where we're feeling in our bliss and every cell of our body is vibrating and all of these things, and to have these experiences of touching God in these moments. Yes, of course. Those sessions have given me inspiration and just life force to keep going on my mission. But the ones that have actually taken the deepest root in my body were the sessions that I sat with myself in pain, discomfort, and especially numbness. Because sitting in the void of feeling nothing is one of the most unbearable things that we do as human beings. But our capacity to hold the void, which is the feminine is the womb, which is the void. So if we can hold the void without needing to fill it, then what we're doing is holding the space for what the divine wants to birth through. So the more we can hold the void, the harder, the longer our capacity to hold the pressure that there's nothing here right now, the bigger the response is, the bigger the reverberation is.
Yeah.
So those pleasure practices I've had of being with myself in numbness, every time I've had a session like that, the next day I wake up like in a new body because my body just needed to be felt in that space. And because I did, I cleared something out that I didn't even know was in there.
Yeah.
So the false matrix has us led to believe that everything is on this two-dimensional map, that there's this one structure, one system, one pathway, whether it's the American dream or whatever you're buying into, consumerism, all of these things. The false matrix keeps us very flat and on incremental growth. So when we start to play this game of being fully embodied, feminine embodiment, feminine business, we're not moving linearly anymore. It's portal to portal to portal. It becomes exponential. And like our mentor talks about, the compound effect is real. Because when we start breaking out, so the false matrix is keeping our mind imprisoned, our body imprisoned, our heart imprisoned, our sex imprisoned, our relationship with money is completely imprisoned. When all of this is trapped in a very two-dimensional, even three-dimensional sense, we have full capacity and creative control to do whatever we want with this life. And the false matrix has tricked us otherwise. So when we wake up beyond that and we do the work, consciously liberate the mind, free the body, don't identify with the trauma in the body anymore. Let that go. Even that's part of the false matrix, is the trauma identification stuff. It's progress, but it's still part of it. Liberate sexuality. It doesn't mean you have to be in your underwear on Instagram like I am. Like, that's just where I want to go. That's where I feel myself. I don't wear clothes at home. So something I did was I stopped showing up online because I thought I was not appropriate for the internet. And I was like, no, fuck this. I'm going to be who I am here to be. It's going to be for the people it's here for. It's not performative. It's authentic. And that vibration permeates, it radiates. And from there, the money comes. But sexuality and sexual reclamation, you don't have to be out on the internet like that. It's just being in relationship with your body, wherever it is. If it's numb, being with that. If it's in pain, with that, with grief, all of it, being with the full totality of every emotional experience that it is to be a woman. That's where the liberation is. That's all sexual energy.
Oh. So speaking of the Matrix, you were just in our favorite magazine, Frequency Magazine by Lou George. Tell us a little bit about that. And then also talk about how everyone can find you, where they can find you on socials, how they can connect with you. And I will make sure to put in the links.
Yeah. Okay. So shout out to Lou and Freak Magazine. How much time do I have for a story for this? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is how I'm going to summarize it.
Okay. Yep. So sorry.
No, it's perfect. And I'm going to trust. So talking about holding the pressure and capacity to hold the pressure. Some things like these pleasure sessions, you're holding the pressure for an hour. Like, that's not that long in the grand scheme of things, and a breakthrough can emerge through that. There's some stories that we're waiting for it to make sense for some time. We're holding the pressure for the breakthrough. So I held the pressure for 13 years on a story since December of 2012. I had this story that was so incomplete and so painful and dramatic and traumatic, and on this quest for meaning that held equal and opposite weight of what I suffered and struggled through. We create the meaning, we sculpt the meaning around our lives. And there was nothing I could align with this that made it just. There was no justice. And I held the question for since 2012, so 13 years, until this miraculous breakthrough happened.
Yep.
And all of the sudden, past, present, future all made sense in a moment. In a moment. And one of the ways that I used to describe this was one of the movies that I loved back in high school, 2005, 2006, was The Matrix. And I always saw myself as Trinity in The Matrix. And I had my spiritual awakenings young, and I would be running the streets of Boston, causing chaos, awakening people into harsh realities that maybe they were not ready for. But it was just this whole chapter of wearing sunglasses at night, always dressed in black. I'm still almost always dressed in black unless I'm wearing cream. It was just a part of my identity, this Trinity identity. So right when this was reclaimed, talking about dating, I'm dating right now. This man reached out to me and he started calling me Trinity right after the identity hit, this reclamation of identity hit. And the synchronicity was just so profound, it was undeniable. And then it got even better.
But do tell, because this is the best part.
So long story short, 2 days after that date, and I dressed up as Trinity, glasses and all. It didn't work out with him for lots of reasons, but it was a fun thing. I knew what I was getting into, and we had fun while we were in it. So that was Saturday. Date was Saturday. Monday morning, Freak Magazine reaches out to me and asks me if I want to be in their Trinity edition of Freak Magazine with Carrie Ann Moss, who plays Trinity in The Matrix, on the cover. And this was my signed, sealed, delivered. The eagle has landed. I've stepped into the new identity. We're here. We're going. It's done, 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 done. Next level. Let's fucking go.
It was such a beautiful moment to witness. You cannot make those synchronicities up. You cannot. And I have my own story about Frequency Magazine. It's called Freak, F-R-E-Q. You guys have to go follow it. Look it up. She is phenomenal. She's actually going to be on the podcast. Lou George. You guys will love her. Okay, so there is one thing I have to ask you before we end. And I wish we could go on longer, but we'll just have to do another podcast. So really quickly, you have a mastermind, you have a membership. We'll link all those below. So how can people find you? And then my favorite thing to ask people at the end of the podcast is, how would you end this sentence? I am the one who.
So Nikki Ananda across the board. Super simple. NIKKIANANDA. And my Facebook group is Temple of EroSophia. Come in here. There's tons of free programs. And actually what I'm going to recommend is how I'm going to end this sentence. I am the one who liberates beyond the false matrix: mind, body, sex, money. And that is a free program that I have inside of my Facebook group. I have a module on mind, module on body, module on sex. I actually just redid the module on money a couple months ago. It's fucking fire. It's so phenomenal. From there, definitely come closer into the EroSophia membership. It's like a low ticket offer where we're meeting twice a month. And then my Exalt Mastermind is specifically for feminine entrepreneurs that want to bring their business to overflow.
Oh. You guys have to know her. You have to get in her world. It will change you. You already are it. She just has a way of removing everything else, so you can start to embody that even more. I absolutely love and adore you. Thank you so much for being on here. We will definitely have you back on again. I love you. You are amazing, just naturally being who you are. And I'm so grateful the way you have embodied your gifts, the way you're so willing to share them with the world. And I really hope anyone who's heard this find your way into her world, because if you do, it's going to change who you are in the best ways. It's going to help you to embody the woman that you already are. And the sooner you can do that, the more you can heal and impact everyone around you. Your presence, your sensuality, your sexuality, your feminine divine power is meant to be a light for everyone around you. And so I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for this. I love you dearly.
Thank you so much. I love you more than anything.
Okay, and we will see you guys again soon on the One Podcast. Thanks, you guys.